Folks, the NBA has brought the hammer down on Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant, suspending him without pay for 25 games beginning next season. Now remember, he previously was suspended for several games. He issued an apology. He met with the commissioner, but then this was after, of course, he was on video on Instagram Live in a strip club brandishing a gun. Then, of course, after apologized the second time, he was in a car with a friend blasting hip-hop music, and he flashed a gun again. The NBA waited until the NBA finals were over before they would actually take any action. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said this is about Morant's suspension. Ja Morant's decision to once again wield a firearm on social media is alarming and disconcerting, given his similar conduct in March, for which he was already suspended 8 games. The potential for other young people to emulate Ja's conduct is particularly concerning. Under these circumstances, we believe a suspension of 25 games is appropriate and makes clear that engaging in reckless and irresponsible behavior with guns would not be tolerated. Now, the NBA said that Morant would also have to adhere to certain conditions before being reinstated. As I said, it's the second time he has been suspended in the last 3 months for showing a firearm on social media. Now the NBA Players Association, they have also responded to this as well. And so this here is a statement from the executive director of their union. And it's a very strong one. And as you expect, they are defending or raising questions about due process in the NBA, and this is one of the issues that immediately jumps out. Let me go ahead and read to you this statement again. This is the statement that is from the head of the players union. So you see it there on the screen, folks. You see her statement. I'm going to read this for you. She says, quote, and this, of course, is Tamika Tremaglio. She says, Ja has expressed his remorse and accepted responsibility for his actions, and we support him unequivocally as he does whatever is necessary to represent himself, our players, and our league in the best possible light. As to the discipline imposed, which keeps him off the court until December and requires some unstated conditions to be met before he can return, we believe it is excessive and inappropriate for a number of reasons, including the facts involved in this particular incident, and that it is not fair and consistent with past discipline in our league. We will explore with Ja all options and next steps. All right, let's get to it in our panel. Matt, look, you're a civil rights attorney. Your perspective on this is a lot of leeway the commissioner is given to make these decisions. And you have the players union who is saying, hey, was this even fair process to suspend him?
Well, one, this is why unions are important, because they stand up for the values of their members, right, and the rights of their members. But, for me, this is actually less about Ja Morant and about the NBA and more about the schizophrenia we have in our country as it relates to guns. We live in a country that is beset with mass shootings and legislatures that are reticent to do anything about them. So for us to wax poetic and act like Ja Morant waving a gun in a car is a cardinal sin, when every day we see nothing but images of guns and support thereof is just patently dishonest, if you ask me. Now, from his discrete issue as it relates to whether he sat with Adam Silver and told him he wasn't going to do it again, I mean, I think the punishment is a little excessive, particularly considering his youth. And, I like the idea that these are role models, but I also don't like the idea that they're held to some standard that's unreasonable for a 23-year-old. And that's just my personal opinion. But I think the bigger thing is we have to be honest about our position on guns and how we view them as a society. And it's absurd that somebody like Ja Morant is not playing basketball for 25 games, but every day we're bombarded with images of guns. And when people actually get injured with them, our legislatures cannot find a way to put meaningful checks on it. So with that, I would say we need to have a larger conversation about the role of guns in our society and our willingness to stand up to the powers that be and the moneyed interests that keep those guns on our streets and not regulated the way they should be.
Jesse, let me ask you this question. let's say you are attorney for a job, and you say, look, the man apologized once. Now you talk about 25 games, no suspension. But let's say there's an NBA player who is a hunter. Let's say he posted photos of him brandishing a gun. Would the NBA respond the same? And so you hear the executive director of the Players Association talking about this double standard. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, we do already have NBA players who are hunters and who have posed on social media sites with guns. That's happened. I think that this punishment was less about what Adam Silver is saying with influence and more about their view on insubordination, because they have talked to Ja Morant prior to about this same situation, and he had expressed remorse prior to. And I think the NBA has taken the position that they are less willing to accept his apologies and less willing to believe that he won't do this again. And they're using, in a sense, a cop-out of saying, well, his influence to kids or people who are watching might diminish the brand. But I think in actuality, it's more so showing Ja Morant that they plan to take this seriously moving forward, and that any deviation from what the NBA expects of him as a player and participant in this league will be harshly punished.
Is it, I mean, look, you hear the executive director say there, Niambi, these unwritten acts that he is going to have to perform to be reinstated. And it's very interesting how people reacted to this. There are a lot of people who are like, oh man, this guy's an idiot. He's stupid. It's cost himself millions. You have others who are saying, well, why is he suspending Second Amendment rights? Others who like say, hey, the NBA is protecting its brand as well. And so to me, what this is the NBA, okay, we hit you with a light suspension before. You came and met with the commissioner, you apologized, said it wouldn't happen again. Boom. It happens again. This is their way of saying, keep playing around. You're going to see how serious we are about impacting your money. And keep in mind, he keeps this up, not only losing NBA job, losing endorsements, all sorts of things.
Absolutely. And listen, I agree that this is about the NBA flexing its muscle and showing these players who's boss, so to speak. But this is also one of those conversations we need to have, because I agree with my panelists. All of these other things are playing in the background, and multiple things can be true at the same time. But this is what happens when you give 23-year-olds whose brains aren't even fully formed millions of dollars and then expect them to exercise the judgment of fully formed adults. So they look grown, right? They're big people. They play this game that entertains us. They make lots of money, but they're not grown-ups. I work with young people all day, and the decisions that they make sometimes leaves me scratching my head. This is how I know this young person is not a full-grown man. Now, I do think this is one of those sort of grow-up time moments for Ja Morant. I think we have to consider what choices come next, because working in the NBA is a privilege. The NBA is not like other institutions where you might work and the protections might look the same as if you were in a different kind of employment space. So I think that also has to be considered. I do share those same concerns, though, as the union, where the NBA can say you have to meet these requirements. You don't know what the requirements are. So you're signing up and agreeing to something because you are being held to account by this organization where you really, I mean, you have some bargaining power, but not really. Ultimately, the NBA is going to be the NBA. And so if they decide that Ja Morant has to go, there will be somebody else waiting in the wings to take his spot. So it's not going to cease functioning as an institution. But these kinds of vague requirements really only serve the NBA. They don't serve Ja Morant or his assistants, right, to become a better decision maker and become a more mature person in this position. So I think these vague requirements that the NBA has sort of said that they're going to ask of him, but have not actually delineated what those are, that should be cause for concern for many players, because I don't think this will be the last time that the NBA decides that something like brandishing a gun or some other behavior is beyond the pale, and then say, and you're going to have to do these things to be determined. I think that is always that vague language always serves the institution and never the person who is subject to those kinds of requirements.
Well, I would certainly hope there are some serious conversations in the Morant household, because if you're making $35 million a year and you're missing a quarter of the season, that's a hell of a hit on your pocketbook, just because you chose to brandish a gun on an Instagram Live. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.